Yeah, I've heard this before. A lot of these kinds of stories, and people go different way. It took them longer time. They went different paths, and blah 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 blah. But at the very least, I think you find some peace just talking to these people because they're you. I mean, I've talked. They've gone through these kind of. They've been deep undercover, doing all kinds of stuff, and it just gets to the point. I remember Sheriff Richard Mack. He was a sheriff here in Graham County in southeastern Arizona before he went on to do a lot of those stuff. He's the power of the sheriff and all the stuff that he advocates for. And we became friends in the mid '90s. And he was a Spanish-speaking undercover narc officer, and that's how he started in this. I think his father was FBI, and it just to hear the stories, and you just have to come because everybody wants to do the right thing. Our legal system is set up in a certain way. This is illegal, and then you start to find out how it really works, and who really benefits, and who really gets prosecuted, and who really gets to profit, and who really suffers. And you just got to go. And so from us, it's easier for me to look at this and say it's just an example of another version of social and economic engineering and getting government outside of the box that the Constitution was to put them in. And that's why Dr. Paul's being so popular, is that it's because freedom is popular. The whole purpose of government was defense of individual rights, not to run lives, not to get inside, do all this kind of stuff. So even the profits from if you eliminated all of the prohibition incentive for the money, well, a lot of this stuff would just go away. But I'm sure there is, ill-gotten gains from something. You stole somebody's property, and then that money, and then you track it. But I'm going, that doesn't really work either by making all of us suspects. So I'm just, you prosecute force and fraud, and a lot of the stuff just goes away. And you have a much better society for my grandkids, which is why I work so hard for this. There's not big giant money, and advocating for freedom. I mean, you don't got a special interest for that other than just people that support you. And oftentimes, even wealthy people, they want to be free just as much too. So I really appreciate you spending a little extra time with us on that, because I find that fascinating that we got, hundreds of billions of dollars, over time just coming into the U.S. in pallets into the Federal Reserve, and they got a nice grease skid for it to happen.
Yeah, it goes on every day, and it's going on every day now.
Oh, let me see. Is there a doubt in my mind? No.
Yeah.
All right, Robert. Well, hey, it looks like you might be making some new friends. I encourage that. I think it give you some peace. I mean, I'm all about just taking the cloud off of my head, the weight off of my shoulders, and at the very least they would be able to just share some stories. I think it'd be interesting them to get your perspective too. So. Yeah. And I look forward to the movie because, being inside the Escobar cartel for years is damn. And the fact that you're able to maintain your position on this the way you are that's interesting too. Why do you think that is? I mean, what's your upbringing? As a mother, father, white picket fence, went to church every Sunday. I mean, what do you think?
I grew up in New York on Staten Island, which is the smallest of the 5 boroughs. My mom and my dad was raised primarily in New Jersey. His father came from Poland and wound up getting land and becoming a farmer. And my mom came from a side of the family was all Italian. And as I mentioned in my book, my grandfather, among other things, worked in a group with a moving company that was actually moving booze for Lucky Luciano. So he knew what prohibition was all about. And I think that one of the reasons that I probably got through the undercover schools and the psychological profiling and got sanctioned to do this kind of stuff, because it's very, very unusual. It puts you in a pressure cooker mentally. It is the most difficult task mentally and physically that I can ever imagine someone would go through. You need to be the type of person who is very firm in their convictions. It is very easy, once you are in the underworld, to begin to sympathize with them, to begin to lose your foundation. And if you have people whose very character isn't strong on that, you don't have a very vivid idea of right and wrong, black and white. If you've got a lot of grays in there, you probably are going to be at greater risk working long-term undercover than a person who's not. But my dad worked 3 jobs at a time because his dream was to be able to put his 2 sons through college, and that's what happened. And we were the first 2 in our family to graduate from college, which my parents were very proud about. And that's really what my...
What decade did you graduate college?
I graduated college in 1972.
So you can... Yeah, see, it's so interesting to have... It's a generational thing that you start to realize that people are a product of their environment and their upbringing and all this kind of stuff. And it's... you never get an expansion of government or respect my authority and everything on the idea that you're going to do somebody harm. You know, it's always on the promise that you're going to make things better, that we're going to, you know, and that's how we're suckered in. But over time, and certainly with the ability to communicate with the internet and, you know, have access to a lot of information, it's getting to the point to where we're starting to understand that the world that you were brought up in doesn't exist anymore. True. And the reason it doesn't exist anymore is because a lot of these, you know, promises that government made. And I'm going, you know, government doesn't work, man. I want my money back. You know, I'm convinced. It's, you know, I'm done. I mean, if you're not going to go back to the base foundational understanding of what government was back when you were in school, all the problems that we have now are a product of the drug war that was announced by Nixon at the time that you were graduating college. So I'm just... and I can see how, all right, it's announced drug war, I'm out of here, we're going down part of, and we're going to go kick some butt, and I got an American flag to, you know, put in my wallet. And I understand that, and you can't blame people for being, you know, part of a generation that they spent billions, if not trillions of dollars into public education and in the propaganda and the corporate media and all this to put us into a certain mindset to believe certain things. But it was always challenged by those little bitty baby percentages of these Thomas Jefferson-type libertarian, Bastiat, you know, Rothbardian, freaking libertarian guys out there going, yeah, we know where this is going. This is going to go bad. So the same thing at the same time. It's 71. We go off the gold standard. They start to see what the Fed allows the Federal Reserve to do this kind of stuff. And you go, here comes Ron Paul, runs for Congress, goes through, has been saying for 30-something years, here we go, this is going to happen, this is why. Then it happens. He's 75, 76 years old, and his biggest supporters comes from people under 30. And you going, man, what kind of world are we living in? And it's not understandable to a lot of people, certainly from your generation and with your experiences. But as time goes on, all of a sudden it starts to make sense. You were being duped, man. You were a cog in the machine to support something that they knew back then they were profiting from. Air America out of the CIA in Vietnam at the same time. Heck yeah, we need a war on drugs, more profit. You know, so I'm just, this is just craziness, and I'm starting to see the break, and it's really coming from direction that you wouldn't expect, and it takes someone and people like you to come out with the information. It just has, regardless of your position, it's just more information, and you can see every word that you say and every story that you have just reinforces, you know, what I'm looking at anyway. So I'm just thinking that we're not in a confrontation, that we're yelling at each other, and we're not, you know, we're going to some different direction. We're going to the same place. It's just how to get there. And I'm glad you're able and willing to come on my show, and we get to share this, to have this conversation, and we all learn something, because I'm looking forward to the movie. I'll promote the crap out of the movie when they do it, and we'll talk about it again, and everybody will go watch it.
Yeah, well, and I too, I really do appreciate sharing ideas, and I'm not closed-minded on how to get to the same place I think we both feel and we both believe this country should be all about. We just happen to have a different view right now on how to get there, but hopefully between the combination of your ideas and mine and ideas of others who are willing to open their voice, maybe change can happen. And
well, I'm for going after the same bad guys you are, because I know they're the ones making sure this is going on anyway. Hey, thanks for spending time with me and doing a little extra there, because I think that was a fascinating story. I wanted to make sure it got in there.
Okay, thank you. I really
Robert
Mazur,
the-infiltrator.com, his book, The Infiltrator, My Secret Life Inside the Dirty Banks Behind Pablo Escobar's Medellin Cartel. Wow, man, fascinating stuff. We'll talk to you next time.